Okay, so today we are going to talk about what resources you can use to teach kids how to use a text and answer questions based on that text by using evidence from the text. So, we're going to watch a video. Oh, let's start over. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so she talks about using quotes and direct textual evidence from the text to answer a question. So the purpose of doing this is to be able to develop the children's reading skills more so they can answer more complex questions based on the text. And then she says, you read information and you take your prior knowledge and then you make an inference. So it's basically a precursor to actually answering questions from the text. And now she's going to use this article, and she's going to read the article and she's going to explain how you can use text or direct quotes from this article to answer questions. So she's going to read this out loud, but we're going to skip through a little bit farther. Here we go. So this is the question. Are clownfish really at risk? And then what she has is her evidence is circled. So she says, there is no evidence that clownfish numbers are dropping. So that would be evidence to say that clownfish are not at risk. But, as you can see, she also finds evidence that says coral reefs where clownfish live are becoming unhealthy. So that would say that clownfish are kind of at risk because where they live is becoming dangerous for them. And then she finds a direct quote from an animal scientist saying that clownfish need protection because their climate is changing, which is bad. And so direct quotes are really important because that's what you want to use when you're answering questions based on a text. So then she compiles all of the evidence that she found into this diagram to answer the question, are clownfish really at risk? This is a really good tool, I feel like, because it helps kids keep their thoughts organized and keep their evidence organized so that they're able to answer the question efficiently. So then she concludes that based on textual evidence in the article, clownfish are at risk and we should be concerned. So that's what you would have your kids do, is after they read the article and come up with evidence, they would explain their explanation or why they think clownfish are at risk or not. So overall, I think this video is effective because it teaches kids how they can use evidence from a text to answer a question piece by piece. So it shows her circling the evidence and then compiling it to answer the question, which I think is really helpful. And then this is another source that I found. It's from Education World, and so it's basically a list for teachers on how to teach kids to use evidence from a text to answer questions. So this one, the first step, it goes from least complicated to most complicated. The first step is to use images to point to evidence. So what you would do, this is the image that they have, you would ask questions about the image, and the children would use the image to answer the questions. So, for example, what color is the house in the middle? And the kids would say red, and that's evidence that they find because the house in the middle is red. So that's like the very, very basic first step to finding evidence to answer a question. And then the next step would be to use short stories. So using a short story would be easier to find evidence in and not the text would not be as complex as it would be if you were reading a full novel. So this is for like the second step, and for younger kids would be to use short stories and find evidence in the short stories based on the question. And then this is, I thought, was really cool it's a murder mystery worksheet, and I have it down here. So basically you would give your kids or your students this worksheet, and they would read it, and they have to come up with clues from this worksheet to find out who committed this murder, which is basically the same thing as collecting evidence from a novel or a textbook to answer a question. And this is more engaging for the students because they are solving a mystery and not just answering questions from a text. So, overall, I think that I found 2 really good resources for teachers to use to teach their students how to collect evidence from a text given a question, or how to answer a question using evidence from the text. So you would probably watch the video first with your class from beginning to end, and I think the video does a really nice job because the lady in the video, her voice is really soothing, and she uses language that's easy to understand, so the kids would not feel like it was overwhelming at first. And then you would do an activity like the image questions, where you would ask questions about the image, and they would use evidence from the image to find the answers, and then you would do the murder mystery sheet, would be like the final thing before you actually use the text.